Silas Kane built the Crimson Vultures like a shadow empire, silent, disciplined, and deadly. Beside him stood Jared Ghost Malloy, the cold tactician, Carmen Vega, the financial genius, and Reed Bishop, the ruthless enforcer. Together, they ran America's most elusive gang, until one overlooked member, Travis Bell, shattered their code of silence and triggered the deadliest takedown in U.S. history. In the gritty streets of Southside Phoenix, something dark had been growing for years, quietly, dangerously, and almost invisibly. The Crimson Vultures weren't born from chaos overnight. They began as a small, tightly knit crew of street hustlers trying to survive. But survival turned into ambition, and ambition turned into domination. At the center of it all was a man named Silas Kane, a figure wrapped in mystery, silence, and discipline. He wasn't loud or flamboyant like other gang leaders. He was calculated, cold, and terrifyingly efficient. By the time law enforcement even knew his name, he had already turned the Crimson Vultures into one of the most sophisticated criminal organizations in the country. Silas believed in structure, not chaos. He built the gang like a corporation, assigning roles, managing operations, and avoiding unnecessary attention. His rise was methodical. It started with small-time robberies, then the drug trade, then illegal arms deals. Soon, the gang was moving product through 3 states, cleaning money through seemingly legitimate businesses, and eliminating threats before they even surfaced. What made the Crimson Vultures different was their discipline. They didn't post guns on social media. They didn't wear flashy chains. They didn't talk to anyone outside the circle. Their code was silence and loyalty, and anyone who broke it disappeared. At Silas's side was Jared Ghost Malloy, a former Marine who brought his battlefield tactics into the underworld. Jared didn't leave evidence. His hits were surgical. He planned every move like a mission, and he was always gone before police even realized a crime had taken place. His calm demeanor made him more dangerous. He wasn't impulsive. He was exact. If Jared showed up, someone died. That was the only certainty. Then there was Carmen Vega, the gang's financial mastermind. She had a degree in economics, which she never mentioned. To the outside world, she ran a non-profit for inner-city youth. Behind closed doors, she washed millions through construction contracts, fake charities, and ghost companies that existed only on paper. She was the reason the IRS never found anything. No transaction led back to her or the gang. Carmen turned street crime into white-collar brilliance. The final key player was Reed Bishop, known in the streets as the Hammer. Where Jared handled silent removal, Reed thrived on public fear. He controlled neighborhoods with brute force, extortion, beatings, public threats. If someone owed the gang money, Reed made sure they paid. If someone talked too much, he made sure they never talked again. Reed was the face of fear in the gang, and people respected him because they knew what he was capable of. Together, these 4 individuals created a network that stretched from Arizona to Texas to California. The Crimson Vultures had safe houses, stash spots, and clean vehicles ready to move at a moment's notice. They had people inside city departments, corrupt lawyers, and even low-level law enforcement on their payroll. They didn't just run the streets. They watched them, tracked them, and stayed 10 steps ahead of anyone who tried to stop them. What puzzled the FBI most was their invisibility. There were no bragging videos, no flashy crimes. The Vultures ran like a secret society. Each member only knew their role and the person directly above them. That way, if anyone got caught, they couldn't expose much. The gang used encrypted phones, burner numbers, and secure drops for communication. Every deal was done with layers of separation. Even the drugs came in through fake import companies that passed every inspection. In under 5 years, the Crimson Vultures had grown from a neighborhood gang into a criminal empire. They were linked to dozens of murders, yet not a single conviction stuck. Witnesses either vanished or turned up dead. Evidence disappeared from storage. Judges were pressured or threatened. Each time authorities thought they had a lead, it dissolved. Frustration built within task forces, and many agents began to believe the gang was untouchable. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Ambition and ego were growing inside some members. Mid-level operatives were taking more risks. Younger members wanted recognition. The discipline that once defined the gang was beginning to erode. And deep within the organization, one man, one overlooked member, was growing tired of the blood, the fear, and the silence. His name was Travis Bell, and although nobody realized it yet, he would soon become the key to dismantling the empire from within. Travis Bell wasn't supposed to matter. He was just another cog in the Crimson Vultures machine, a quiet, obedient mid-level operator who handled transportation. His job was to move product between Phoenix and Nevada, no questions asked. He followed the rules, stayed under the radar, and never tried to climb the ladder. That's why no one suspected he'd be the one to bring the entire empire down. But in early 2021, everything changed. During a federal highway operation outside Las Vegas, agents pulled over a semi-truck filled with furniture. Hidden inside were packages of heroin and military-grade weapons, valued at over $12 million. The driver was arrested on the spot. So was Travis, who had been trailing the shipment in a clean rental SUV. At first, agents expected silence or a request for a lawyer. That was standard in gang arrests. Instead, Travis asked to speak to the FBI. Alone. What he said shocked them. He offered full cooperation, not just on the shipment, but on everything. He claimed he had details that could destroy the Crimson Vultures from the inside out. Names, locations, money trails, murder sites, internal rivalries. He didn't want money. He didn't want fame. All he wanted was protection and a new identity. According to Travis, he was tired of the blood, tired of the fear, and most of all tired of pretending the gang was unbreakable. The FBI didn't believe him at first. They had heard similar promises before, all ending in dead ends or planted traps. But they took a chance and verified one of his claims. He described a remote desert location outside Tucson where a missing informant, James Renner, had allegedly been buried 2 years prior. Agents followed the coordinates. What they found was a shallow grave, with Renner's decayed remains and a bullet hole in his skull. Just as Travis said, it was real. That confirmation changed everything. The Department of Justice approved the formation of a secret federal task force, Operation Vulture's Fall. Headed by Special Agent Denise Holloway, the unit would operate under strict secrecy. No leaks, no outside communication, no media. Their objective was clear: build a complete, airtight case against the Crimson Vultures and coordinate a nationwide takedown. Holloway had years of experience tracking organized crime, but she knew this wouldn't be like the others. The Vultures were different, smarter, paranoid, ruthless. Working closely with Travis, the team started mapping the gang's structure. He revealed how Silas Kane never communicated directly with lower members. Every message passed through at least 2 intermediaries. He explained how Jared "Ghost" Malloy used a series of abandoned safe houses as operation hubs, rotating them every month to avoid detection. He exposed the shell companies Carmen Vega used to move laundered money through city contracts, even naming public officials who unknowingly approved the deals. He even identified storage facilities, drop zones, and vehicles used for drug routes. The level of detail was extraordinary, yet it came with a cost. As the task force made progress, strange things began happening. Surveillance cameras placed near key drop locations were suddenly disabled. One informant vanished without a trace. In another instance, a storage unit, filled with evidence, was burned down days before agents were set to retrieve it. Holloway suspected someone inside law enforcement was feeding information to the Vultures. Internal reviews were ordered. Background checks ran across the task force. Holloway grew paranoid, limiting access to sensitive information to only a small circle of trusted agents. Still, leaks continued. Every time they planned a raid or monitored a deal, the targets would vanish just hours before. Someone was warning them. It wasn't just frustrating, it was dangerous. The Vultures weren't reacting like amateurs. They were adjusting, removing evidence, relocating assets, and accelerating their operations. It was a chess game, and the IAB task force was playing against a master. Meanwhile, Travis Bell remained in protective custody, monitored 24/7. His behavior was calm, focused.
He provided maps, photographs, financial records, and even voice recordings of conversations he had secretly recorded while inside the gang. He described an upcoming operation, one that could result in mass casualties if not stopped in time.
According to him, Silas Kane was planning a multi-city distribution push, moving massive quantities of drugs and weapons into rival territories. The goal, destabilize them through chaos and take control. But to stop it, Holloway needed something more. She needed a way to expose the entire leadership, from Carmen to Reed to Jared, and especially Silas. That required a trap. One good enough to draw them in. One believable enough to make them act. It would have to be high stakes and full of risk. And for it to work, they needed the gang to believe everything was business as usual. As Travis warned them, the gang wouldn't go down easily, and someone inside the system was already working against them. As Operation Vulture's fall gained momentum, pressure inside the task force mounted. The agents had enough to take down foot soldiers and middle-tier operatives, but not the leadership, the real architects of the Crimson Vultures. Silas Kane, Carmen Vega, Jared Malloy, and Reed Bishop remained untouchable. Every time investigators got close, something interfered. Plans were leaked, locations were cleared out, and evidence was destroyed before agents could secure it. The pattern was too precise to be coincidence. Someone was feeding information to the gang, someone deep enough inside the system to know classified details. Special Agent Denise Holloway, who had dedicated years of her life to dismantling criminal networks, felt the weight of betrayal bearing down. She ordered a full internal review of the task force. Every agent, tech specialist, and analyst was scrutinized. Some took offense, others understood, but Holloway knew she had no choice. Too much had gone wrong. Too many moves had been anticipated. She focused on behavioral changes, unusual absences, financial activity, anything that might expose the mole. One name began to stand out: Agent Mike Rourke. A 15-year veteran, respected and reliable, Rourke had been instrumental in several gang busts across the Southwest. But something about his recent behavior seemed off. He had recently taken unreported trips, logged into restricted files without reason, and moved large sums of money into new accounts under his wife's name. Holloway quietly placed Rourke under surveillance. Within days, the truth unraveled. An audio intercept captured Rourke speaking in code on a secure line, referencing an upcoming raid. Analysts decrypted the message and matched the call time with a failed operation just a week earlier. Rourke had been tipping off the Vultures. Worse, a hidden recording device was found planted in one of the secure briefing rooms used by the core team. Holloway knew she had been right all along. The betrayal had come from within. The arrest was quick and quiet. Rourke was taken into custody and interrogated under federal authority. At first, he refused to speak, but under pressure and facing the full weight of a federal conspiracy charge, he broke. He admitted to working directly with Reed Bishop, who paid him to pass information in exchange for protection and money. Rourke had delivered raid schedules, agent names, and even surveillance footage. The damage he caused could have destroyed the entire operation had it gone unnoticed longer. With Rourke neutralized, Holloway saw an opportunity. The Crimson Vultures still believed their mole was active. That illusion could be used to set a trap. Working with Travis Bell, the task force developed a plan. They staged a fake fallout. An argument between Travis and Holloway leaked through the channels Rourke had used. Then, they fed a fabricated story. A massive heroin shipment was being rerouted from Phoenix to El Paso using a clean trucking route, with minimal security and a fortune's worth of product. The bait was irresistible. According to Travis, the Vultures couldn't resist a power grab when they saw one. The task force placed tracking devices, surveillance drones, and a small tactical team along the false route. Within 48 hours, gang activity spiked. Safe houses came alive, vehicles mobilized, and known associates started making calls. At dawn, 3 vehicles, 2 SUVs and a box truck, attempted to intercept the fake shipment. That's when the task force made their move. Agents moved in from all sides. The operation was swift and controlled. Armed suspects were arrested without incident. Inside the truck, agents found detailed plans for further attacks, ledgers of financial transactions, and burner phones linking calls to Carmen Vega and Jared Malloy. The digital trail was exactly what they needed. The false operation gave them surveillance proof of conspiracy, financial connections, and active planning from top leadership. Federal warrants were signed within hours. Still, the most elusive piece of the puzzle remained: Silas Kane. No phones, no sightings, no fingerprints. Travis had warned them that Silas worked like a ghost. He left no trace, never made calls, never. Visited locations twice, and he always used intermediaries. But with the arrests of Carmen and Jared looming, Holloway believed the pressure might force him into the open. As the task force executed coordinated raids across Phoenix, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas, they captured over 30 members, seized weapons, cash and drugs, and disrupted the Vultures' communication chain. Carmen Vega was arrested while leaving a courthouse, and Jared Malloy was captured inside a luxury penthouse with multiple firearms and a forged passport. Yet Silas Kane remained silent, missing from every location. Not a single camera had captured his image. Not a single call traced to him. But then, just as Holloway reviewed footage from the El Paso sting, she noticed something odd. A man in a delivery uniform stood nearby, watching the entire operation from a rooftop. His face partially hidden, his stance too calm. The image was blurry, but Holloway's instinct screamed one name: Silas Kane. The ghost was watching. The rooftop figure disappeared just minutes after the takedown began in El Paso. No one noticed him leave. No one saw him enter. But when Special Agent Denise Holloway reviewed the footage again and again, she became convinced. Silas Kane had been there, watching from a distance like a puppeteer observing his tangled web unravel. For years, his invisibility had been his greatest strength. But now, with his organization crumbling and his top lieutenants behind bars, his silence had become a trail in itself. The task force shifted its entire focus. Carmen Vega and Jared Malloy were interrogated separately under maximum security conditions. Neither gave up anything significant. Carmen kept silent behind her lawyer's shield, and Jared simply stared through the one-way mirror like nothing mattered anymore. Both were professionals. Both understood that speaking would make them targets. Silas had ensured their loyalty, even in failure. But Holloway wasn't looking for confessions. She was looking for gaps, for pressure points. That's when Travis Bell made another revelation. He told the task force about a remote property in northern New Mexico. Not a safe house, but a kind of retreat. A heavily guarded estate known among high-ranking members as the Hollow. It was where key meetings were held, but only for a select few. Travis had never been there, but he'd heard whispers about biometric access, rotating staff, and a mile-long drive-away hidden by forest. The property wasn't under any name connected to known Vulture associates. Holloway's team conducted satellite scans, searched land records, and found the location, a secluded estate registered under a shell corporation based in Panama. It was perfect for someone like Silas Kane. Operation Black Hollow was launched. Within 72 hours, a multi-agency task force converged under darkness. Drones scanned the perimeter. Thermal imagery confirmed at least 5 armed guards, several inside buildings, and one figure matching Silas Kane's height and gait walking near the back entrance. Unlike previous operations, this one couldn't fail. They couldn't lose him again. Just before dawn, agents moved in. Silent, precise, and fast. The guards were taken down one by one without gunfire. The main house was breached at 5:07 a.m., by a 5-man tactical unit. Inside, they found walls lined with surveillance monitors, encrypted servers, hard drives, and cash. But the most shocking discovery came in the basement, a secure operations room with charts, maps, and a massive board outlining rival gangs, law enforcement positions, and even photographs of federal agents. Silas Kane had been tracking them the whole time, and in the center of the room was a chair, empty. He was gone. But he hadn't gone far. 2 miles from the estate, hidden in a dried-out creek bed, a surveillance drone caught movement. A man in tactical gear, carrying a duffel bag, and moving through the underbrush. Agents descended within minutes. A short chase followed, then a standoff. The figure stood still, hands raised, as agents closed in. The face matched no photographs. In government databases, no fingerprints, no prior arrests. But one look into his eyes confirmed what Holloway already knew. This was Silas Kane. He said nothing. Not during arrest, not during interrogation. Not even as charges were listed: racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, weapons trafficking, money laundering, obstruction of justice. Hundreds of counts stacked against him. The silence that had protected him for so long had now become his prison. In the months that followed, the Crimson Vultures disintegrated. Dozens of members flipped to reduce their sentences. Millions in assets were seized, corrupt officials exposed. Public trials began, and news outlets swarmed the story. America's most disciplined and secretive gang, destroyed from within by one of their own. Travis Bell entered witness protection, never to be seen again. Carmen Vega and Jared Malloy received life sentences without parole. Reed Bishop was found dead in his cell under mysterious circumstances just days after his conviction. Exact. For Silas Kane, he remained quiet during the entire trial. No defense, no outbursts. Just a cold stare as prosecutors painted him as the mastermind behind a nationwide criminal network. He was sentenced to multiple life terms in a supermax facility. No visitors, no press, no future. The final chapter of the Crimson Vultures was sealed in silence, the same silence that once made them untouchable. But in the end, even ghosts can't run forever.